And the topic of today's video is accessibility. As many people who are subscribed to my channel know, I am a huge fan of the Souls series. And with every release of a new title, the same conversation seems to pop up from gaming journalists regarding From Software's lack of difficulty options in their games. Now, as someone who's actually played through all the titles multiple times, with me just finishing my playthrough of Demon's Souls Remake, I have a lot of feelings on this topic. Now, IGN's Wesley LeBlanc, apologies for butchering that name, man, my bad, wrote an article that was released yesterday about how Demon's Souls PS5 almost had an easy mode. This comes from a new report from the Washington Post. Blue Point creative director Gavin Moore told the Washington Post in an email that an easy mode was in the cards/contemplated before ultimately the developer decided not to pursue it. This is what Gavin had to say. This project remakes the work of another development team. While we've made some changes, our core driving mantra has always been to preserve the spirit and the intent of the original creators. While we considered and discussed an easy mode, we ultimately decided it wasn't our place, merely being custodians for this amazing game, to add something that would fundamentally alter its balance. Now, Moore has stated earlier that there shouldn't be any difficulty options in Demon's Souls, and he thinks that the game's challenge is fair. A big driving point in contention is the topic point of accessibility, which developers should cater to and implement features that would make it easier for people who are physically disabled to go through the game. This seems to always translate into this idea of an easy mode, but Moore did speak to Washington Post about the accessibility options the developers did choose to include in the game. This includes an option to switch the audio from stereo to mono, with a choice to play the sound either on the left or right. And for those who experience color vision deficiency, we added the ability to edit the UI palette. Some players are sensitive to certain types of screen movement, so they've also added a toggle for motion blur and camera shake. The DualSense controller also plays into helping players with haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, which can be disabled. And as someone who's experienced it firsthand, the controller has often helped me out in certain points. Along with the Pulse 3D audio headset that I have, in which I could hear enemy footsteps stomping on the ground, so I knew which areas to avoid. Now, in my opinion, the thing that makes Demon's Souls Remake difficult for me is the lack of shortcuts, but in some respects it is easier than the other From Software titles in the Souls series because of the co-op feature. Now, while I myself have not had anyone come into my game, I've played multiple co-op sessions as the Blue Phantom, and I've gone into my friends' games where I am significantly over level for the specific area that they're in. I'm talking 40 levels over them, man. I was also able to keep everything, as they didn't put a limit onto how much grass I could carry outside of weight, or any other caps like they do in Dark Souls 3 in particular. Dark Souls 3, I can have 15 Estus flasks in general, right? But then when I go into someone else's world, they cap it to 7, and then so on, lower. It's actually pretty ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun, and I love playing through the game with my friends. While I personally prefer to go through levels by myself on my first playthrough, I don't think there's anything wrong with co-oping. Receiving help from your buddies, I mean, it's a feature that's built in, plus there's also a risk there, in which if you die in human form, which you have to be when you're summoning people in, your world tendency will drop, making the world significantly harder the further you get to black. You have to deal with enemy phantoms invading your world, people love coming through and invading, so that's something you have to consider as well before you start a co-op session with a buddy. There's also other ways to make the game easier for yourself, such as running a magic build. Magic is pretty essential in this game. Actually, range in general is pretty essential in this game, in my opinion. And by essential, I mean overpowered. It's definitely overpowered. Now, the reason I'm so blasé about the topic in general at this point is because, as I stated before, it's something that has been brought up multiple times and yet nothing has changed. At this point, after 5 to 6 games, I am just not concerned. FromSoft has made it clear what their vision is for how they want these games to be experienced by players. Regardless of how some people may feel about it, the Souls titles are successful, just the way they are. Overall, if you're having trouble with the game, get a buddy to help you out. That's just my perspective. What do you guys think about this? Should there be difficulty options in From Software titles? Does every game need to be for every person? Should accommodations be made so everyone feels included? Should people who don't have physical disabilities speak on behalf of those who do? Is it ableist to assume that someone who's physically disabled cannot get through a From Software title? I'm curious to know what you guys think and more, so please leave it in the comment section below, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll hit you for the next one. Peace!